working this mysterious case. Is our addict nation targeting teens? High school students nodding off left and right as a heroin plague sweeps through the Pacific Northwest. You will not believe how many high school students are now in rehab. Tonight, desperate parents are left to wonder, how did my kid become a junkie? Also, an Issues exclusive. Tonight, I'll talk one-on-one with Summer Thompson's devastated mother. Her beautiful daughter was kidnapped, raped, murdered while walking home from school. Tonight, Dina Thompson shares her harrowing story. And she has a message for predators. We're coming to get you. Plus, a battered wife fights back. Brenda Klubine says her husband broke her arms and fractured her skull. Then he threatened to kill her, but she killed him first. Tonight, I'll talk live with a woman who spent 26 years behind bars for what she calls self-defense. Issues starts now. Tonight, a family fears the worst. Their loved one, fortune teller Kathy Adams, has been missing for more than a week now, and her relatives say she was trying to leave her allegedly abusive husband. If only the psychic could have predicted her own fate. Adams' husband of 20 years, John Marks Jr., is also missing tonight. Coincidence? Cops did a welfare check on the couple's home last week. And, well, whatever they saw, we don't know exactly what it was, but whatever they saw made them think this is a case of foul play. Dogs are searching, and dozens of search warrants have been served in an attempt to find these two individuals. Cops did find the husband's car at a motel about 30 miles south of the couple's home, but no sign of Kathy or John. Kathy's family is thinking the worst and says she has endured years of abuse during her 20-year relationship with John Marks Jr. And her family is frantic, and I mean frantic, to find her. We're going to talk to a family member in a second. Let's help find them tonight. Call me, 1-877-JVM-SAYS. That's 1-877-586-7297. If you've seen those two, we're going to show the pictures over and over again. Contact police immediately. Somebody may have seen them. Straight out to my fantastic expert panel. But we begin with a psychic investigator by the name of Shellee Hale. Shellee, I want to tell our viewers, first of all, you're also a licensed private investigator. You've been brought in by law enforcement in the past to deal with missing cases. How were you brought into this case, and what do you know about this couple?
I actually have a forum called Psychic Crime Fighter, and the family contacted me yesterday.
And what do you know about what happened? What have you been able to find out?
Well, Kathy Adams went missing. It's been almost 2 weeks, and she had a volatile relationship with her husband. The car was actually found, like you said, about 30 miles away, really close to an airport. I would suspect he skipped town. They have been very close-lipped on this whole case. I think that they found a great deal of evidence at the house that would indicate that she might be deceased.
Now, I want to bring in Joey Adams, who is the nephew of the missing woman. Joey, thank you for joining us. I know you must be very, very nervous and upset tonight, so I thank you for taking the time, Joey.
Thank you for having us on, Jane.
Tell us about the relationship between these two. I understand the family believes that Kathy, who I assume is your aunt, was trying to leave her husband, and she had actually booked a plane ticket to Atlanta in order to leave her husband, and at that exact time, she disappears. Tell us what you know about their relationship.
John was a very abusive husband. I mean, this has been going on for a long time. My family actually paid a plane ticket for Kathy to come home on, it was the weekend of, she went missing on October the 8th, and she was supposed to leave John that weekend. And family hasn't heard from her since then, and there was concern. Monday morning, family put a well-being check because it's unlike Kathy. She calls someone every day, whether it be my dad, my mom, sisters. I mean, she's unlike that for her to be missing and not be in touch with anybody.
Do you think her common-law husband is capable of violence against her? And have you heard or seen of any violence by him against her?
He's been abusive. There's been all kind of crazy things. He's been very abusive against her for the past 20 years.
Like what?
I mean, beating her up, held her hostage before.
Wow.
All kinds of crazy things.
Well, again, they're looking for these two people. They are common law married, and apparently, according to relatives, you just heard from the nephew, a very abusive relationship, which sadly is not a good sign. Kathy Adams' disappearance is a pattern. She's allegedly in an abusive relationship. She tries to leave, and her husband goes missing, and so does she. Sound familiar? Issues is monitoring a strikingly similar case involving a missing husband and wife in Kansas City, Kansas. Amanda Sinkhorn's brother joined us just the other day here on Issues.
She was very much terrified of him. That's why she came to live with me at my house. I fear that she's been taken against her will. I fear that she's been forced to leave her family.
Amanda Sinkhorn is still missing, and so is the man who was allegedly abusing her. My big issue tonight was, we're talking about this case now, Kathy Adams' disappearance. Somehow what they call a separation assault. Get this, 75% of women are killed after they leave their abusive spouse. So, Robbie Ludwig, this is the key danger point. When a woman finally stands up to an abusive man and says, I've had it and I'm out of here. Tell us about that.
Yeah, a lot of these abusive men are very dependent on their wives. They need their wives to almost be the bad one so they can feel like the strong one. But when their wife threatens to leave, they're faced with their own vulnerability. And they often feel that their wife is their property. They don't have a right to leave. So that is usually the danger time for a lot of these women. And in fact, many of these women have been warned that they are going to be killed if they choose to leave. So they almost sense their imminent death a lot of times.
Joey Adams, nephew of the missing woman, did she express fear that, wow, if I do leave, I might be in trouble here?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Joey, did your aunt express fears that if she did leave, she might get into some kind of problem and be attacked by this guy?
She was deadly afraid of him, Jane. I mean, we're fearing the worst right now. It doesn't look good. We're fearing that he killed her. I mean, the police is highly looking for him. They want to question him. I mean, you know, we only know so much. He's been on the run, hiding. We believe family's helping him. And, I mean, the last time he was seen was October the 13th in Weld County, Colorado. She was not with him. So, I mean, we're fearing the worst right now.
Well, I hope that's not the case. And we do have to state for the record that this missing man, this husband, is not been named a suspect or even labeled as a person of interest. Authorities are saying they would like to talk to John Marks Jr. and like to know where he is and why he disappeared at the same time that his common-law wife did, and why it happened just at the time when she said she was leaving him for good and was heading to the airport to leave the state. Anita, Alabama, your question or thought, ma'am?
Hey, Jane, how are you?
Good. What's your question?
Well, you kind of hit on it earlier. I'm thinking if this woman was a psychic, which I know some people don't believe in, some do. I think some people have, you know, powers to see things. I know some psychics see the future, some see the past. Could she not see that this man was planning to probably murder her?
Well, we're going to have to go back
Jane,
to our psychic investigator for 1 second. Shellee Hale.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. I think she did know. She was actually being secretive about her visit to her family in Atlanta, and I think she was planning on getting away. So I would believe, she's not here to say this on her behalf, but I would believe she did know.
But Jane, one of the big lessons that's, thank you. One of the lessons that's really been illustrated here is that there's no good reason to announce your intention to leave. The best practice, if you're in an abusive relationship, leave. Everything else can be bought again. It's not about material things. Just get out. And I also appreciate the dialogue that we're exploring the impact of domestic violence. As a criminal defense lawyer, I do have to further the conversation, though, by pointing out that there are many instances of false reports of people that use domestic violence allegations to leverage and further other agendas. So while this person that we're talking about,
this woman is missing, Darren.
Understood, but we're talking about her husband, who's now being essentially convicted in the court of public opinion.
No, we haven't convicted him. All we said is that is it a coinky-dink that they both disappeared just when she says she's leaving him? I don't know what happened. I hope they both show up. I hope they're gone on vacation together. But we have to talk about the possibility and show that this is a problem. This pattern crystallizes when the woman stands up for herself and says, I'm leaving. And you're right, Darren. They should never announce it in advance. Always leave silently and quickly and get to a safe house, and don't let your abuser know your plans. Coming up, a heroin epidemic breaks out in the Pacific Northwest. You will not believe how many high school students have become hooked on heroin. This is an epidemic. It's a plague. We're taking your calls on this. 1-877-JVM says. Plus, a shocking plea from Zara Baker's stepsister. Why does she want to keep her own mother behind bars?
Adam, did you have any involvement